You have been told to diversify your portfolio to reduce risk. But what if I told you that advice is quietly killing your return? Think about it. How many of those 30 stocks in your portfolio do you actually understand? Diversification feels safe, but it often means spreading your bets too thin on things you barely know. Buffett says if you had just 20 investments to make your entire life, you'd choose differently and smarter. In this video, I'll show you how too much diversification can be dangerous and what to do instead. So stick around. Hello there, this is a value investor here. I help people save and invest intelligently. I have 20 years of investing experience and an honors degree in finance and banking. Let's get right into it. The common view, which is a problem, is don't put all your eggs in one basket. This is advice that needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. But first, before we go into all that, let's explain what diversification is. Diversification means not putting all your money into one investment. That way, if one of them loses money or goes out of business, you don't lose everything. The real risk that people run into is that they've got too many baskets. Warren Buffett often says that diversification is protection against ignorance. He wasn't joking, he meant it, because if you truly understand a few great investments, that's all you need. You don't need 30, 40, 50 stocks. Warren Buffett has a philosophy which he calls the punch card test. So he said, imagine if you could only make 20 investments in your life. You would actually think long and hard before you made. Every time you picked a stock, one choice would be used up. So you'd be left with 19 stocks. If you had that kind of an arrangement, you would choose wisely and you take more time to consider your options before you invest. So when your choices are limited, you make better decisions. And better decisions leads to better results. One of my favorite investors called Peter Lynch says this, and you can't say it better than this. He said, institutions diversify, but investors should think. You have an advantage over the big investors because they've got rules and regulations. If you were an institutional investor and you decided to hold 4 stocks in a portfolio, you would be told to buy more stocks in order to diversify that portfolio because of the rules. But if you are a retail investor, you are independent, you're an independent thinker, you've got more time to actually get to know individual stocks and invest in them. Peter Lynch says the amateur has the edge by avoiding the blundering head. I'm going to say this as well. If you are a beginner investor, you can diversify over a couple of index funds. So for example, you can have a portfolio which has got 4 index funds, and those 4 index funds will give you diversification over sectors. It will give you diversification over geographies, where you have your global index that gives you diversification on a country level, and you have your S&P 500 which gives you diversification over sectors. So you don't need 20 index funds in your portfolio as a beginner investor. Charlie Munger, who was Warren Buffett's longtime partner, says this: don't own what you don't understand. And to the man with only a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. If you only know one way to think, you'll treat every stock the same. And this is a problem. When you do this, you will probably make mistakes. And that's why many people spread their investments across too many stocks, because they don't fully understand any of them. Munger says we need to learn from different fields like psychology, economics, math, and build a strong way of thinking which comes together to help you make decisions and give you that edge that most people don't have. I also want to talk about this coffee can portfolio and Nick's sleep. So the coffee can portfolio, this is there's a guy called Chris Myers, and Chris Myers had a coffee can, and he would buy stocks and put them in this coffee can. And what he did, which was different to what his wife was doing, was he would get the stock tips and he would buy, but he would never sell. So he wouldn't follow the sell tips. So Chris Myers actually managed to build his coffee can, and his wife discovered it when he died. And he had made much, much more than his wife had made, following the brokers who were telling him to buy. So, buy a few truly great companies, seal the can, and forget it for about 10 to 20 years. Nick Sleep took this further. He made almost no trades for years. His portfolio was so concentrated that most fund managers would actually panic when they saw it. But he believed in the businesses and he believed in endurance, and his results were extraordinary. So, Nick also says you really can make your money sitting on your assets. Almost read that as assets. So, yeah, you really can make your money sitting on your assets. That's Nick Sleep there. Love him. So the conclusion is that diversification isn't always wrong, but when you do it without thinking, it becomes an excuse to avoid real work, because you're supposed to know what you invest in, you're supposed to research, you're supposed to read. Instead of spreading your bets thin, you have to go deep, you have to study, you have to build conviction. And when you find something great, own it long enough for it to actually compound and make you wealth. If you've enjoyed this, it has given you a different way of thinking, follow me for more timeless investing insights. Please subscribe. It helps the video to be recommended to more people. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.